Have you ever felt like there is a fire inside you that you cannot control? A small spark happens, and suddenly you explode with words or actions that you later regret. You might say something hurtful to a friend, or maybe you slam a door, and afterward you feel empty and sad. Many of us struggle with this feeling. We think that anger is just a part of who we are, and we cannot change it. But the truth is, anger is like a wild horse. If you let it run free, it will destroy everything around you. But if you learn to hold the reins, you can guide that energy into something powerful and good. Today, I want to share a gentle story with you about learning to control this strong emotion. It is a story about a boy who let his anger rule his life until he learned a very important lesson. You will see how one small change in his thinking led to a big change in his heart. So, let's begin this journey together. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. This will help the channel grow and allow me to release even more wonderful stories for you. Once upon a time, in a small, quiet village surrounded by green hills and tall trees, there lived a young boy named Natan. Natan was a boy with a kind heart deep down, but he had a very big problem. He had a very bad temper. This means that he got angry very easily. Natan was like a volcano. Most of the time, he was quiet, but when something bothered him, he would erupt. His face would turn red, his hands would make tight fists, and he would shout at the top of his voice. Natan lived a simple life. He went to school, he played in the park, and he helped his parents at home. But because of his anger, his life was not peaceful. He was always fighting with someone. If his sister touched his toys, he would yell at her. If his friends did not play the game the way he wanted, he would get angry and push them. Even small things like a drop of rain on his hand or a pen that did not work would make Natan explode with fury. Natan did not like being angry. After he shouted, he often felt sorry. He wanted to be a good boy, but he did not know how to stop the fire inside him. He felt like he was a prisoner of his own emotions. Every day was a battle. He would wake up in the morning promising himself that he would not get angry today, but by lunchtime he would already be shouting at someone. This problem made Natan very lonely. His friends started to avoid him because they were afraid of his temper. His parents were tired of the constant noise in the house. Natan felt sad and isolated. He thought that maybe he was just a bad person and that he would never be happy. One sunny afternoon, Natan had a very bad day at school. He had failed a small test, and when the teacher tried to correct him, he had been rude to her. Then, during the break, a boy accidentally bumped into him, and Natan pushed him so hard that the boy fell to the ground and started crying. The principal called Natan's parents. When Natan got home, his father was very disappointed. He told Natan to go to his room and think about his behavior. Natan sat in his room, looking out the window. He saw his neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, working in her garden. Mrs. Jenkins was a very old and wise woman. She had lived in the village for a long time, and everyone respected her. She had a gentle smile and a calm voice. She loved flowers and spent every day taking care of them. Her garden was the most beautiful in the village, full of bright colors and sweet smells. Natan decided to go outside. He needed to get out of his house. He walked to Mrs. Jenkins's fence and stood there, watching her water her roses. Mrs. Jenkins saw him. She noticed his sad face and his red eyes. She put down her watering can and walked slowly to the fence. "Hello, Natan," she said softly.
"You look like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders today."
Natan looked down at his feet.
"I had a bad day, Mrs. Jenkins," he mumbled. "I got into trouble again. I shouted at my teacher and pushed my friend. I don't know why I am so angry."
Mrs. Jenkins looked at him with kind eyes. She did not scold him. She did not tell him he was a bad boy. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Anger is a strong wind, Natan," she said. "It can blow down a house if you do not know how to build strong walls. But I think I can help you. I have a little task for you. Are you willing to try?" Natan looked up, surprised. "A task? What kind of task?" Mrs. Jenkins pointed to the wooden fence that surrounded her garden. It was an old fence, made of strong wooden planks. "I want you to take this hammer," she said, handing him a heavy hammer from her tool shed. "And I want you to take this bag of nails. Every time you get angry, I want you to come here and hammer a nail into this fence. Not into the gate,
just into the wooden planks. Do not shout, do not fight, just hammer a nail. Can you do that? Natan thought this was a strange request. That's it? Just hammer a nail? That is it, Mrs. Jenkins smiled. Every time the fire comes, put a nail in the wood. Natan agreed. He took the hammer and the bag of nails and went home. The next morning, the test began. At breakfast, Natan's mother gave him toast that was a little bit burnt. Natan felt the anger rising in his chest. He wanted to scream, but then he remembered the fence. He ran outside, went to Mrs. Jenkins's garden, and hammered a nail into the fence. Bang, bang, bang. He put all his anger into the hammer. He felt a little better. At school, a boy laughed at Natan's drawing. Natan felt his face get hot. He clenched his fists. He wanted to hit the boy, but he stopped. He took a deep breath. When the school bell rang, he ran all the way to Mrs. Jenkins's house and hammered another nail into the fence. This went on for weeks. Every day, Natan visited the fence. Sometimes he hammered 3 nails, sometimes 5, sometimes only 1. Slowly, the fence began to change. It started to fill up with nails. Some nails were crooked, some were straight. There were dozens of them, then hundreds. The once beautiful wooden fence was now full of ugly metal heads. After a few weeks, Natan stood in front of the fence. He looked at the damage. He saw how many nails he had hammered. It was a shock to him. He never realized how often he got angry. Seeing the nails made him understand the weight of his problem. He felt ashamed. Mrs. Jenkins came out of her house to check on him. She stood beside him and looked at the fence. "You have been busy, Natan," she said gently. Natan nodded. "I didn't know I was so angry, Mrs. Jenkins," he said quietly. "I am sorry about the fence." "Do not worry about the fence," she said. "Now I have a new part of the task for you. I want you to try one more thing. For the next week, whenever you feel angry, I want you to control it. Take a deep breath, count to 10, walk away. And if you succeed, if you do not shout and do not get angry, I want you to come and pull out 1 nail from the fence." Natan thought this would be easy, but he was wrong. Controlling anger is much harder than just hitting a nail. The next day, his sister spilled water on his homework. Natan felt the fire start. He opened his mouth to yell, but he stopped. He closed his mouth. He counted to 10. He took a deep breath. He did not yell. He waited until he was calm. Then he went to the fence. He tried to pull out a nail. It was hard work. The wood held the nail tight. He had to use the back of the hammer to wiggle it loose. He pulled and pulled. Creak, squeak. Finally, the nail came out. It took a lot of effort. Day after day, Natan struggled. Sometimes he failed, and he had to hammer a new nail in. But mostly, he succeeded. He learned to pause. He learned that he did not have to react immediately. He learned that the anger would go away if he just waited a few seconds. He started to breathe deeply when he felt stressed. He started to walk away when he felt provoked. This process took a long time. It was not just 1 week, it was many months. Natan visited the fence every single day. Slowly, the pile of nails on the ground grew, and the fence became clear again. It was a slow change, but it was real. Natan was changing too. His face looked softer. His voice was calmer. His friends noticed that he was not shouting anymore. They started to play with him again. His parents were happy to see the peaceful return to their home. Finally, the day came when Natan pulled out the very last nail. The fence was free of metal. He stood there, holding the last nail in his hand. He felt proud. He ran to find Mrs. Jenkins. She was sitting on her porch, drinking tea. "Mrs. Jenkins! Mrs. Jenkins!" Natan called out happily. "I did it! I pulled out all the nails! The fence is clean. I have no more anger." Mrs. Jenkins smiled her warm, wise smile. She put down her teacup and stood up. "Come with me, Natan," she said. They walked together to the fence. It looked clean from a distance, but as they got closer, Mrs. Jenkins asked Natan to look very carefully at the wood. "Look at the planks, Natan," she said softly. Natan looked. He saw the wood. It was full of holes. There were dark, round holes everywhere. Some were deep, some were shallow. The wood was rough and scarred. "You did a wonderful job controlling your anger, Natan," Mrs. Jenkins said, placing her hand on his shoulder. and the fence is free of nails. But look at the holes. The nails are gone, but the marks remain. The fence is no longer the same as it was before. Natan touched the wood with his finger. He felt the rough holes. Yes, he said quietly, it is damaged. This is the lesson, my dear child, Mrs. Jenkins said in her teacher-like voice.
When you say angry words, or when you act in anger, it is like hammering a nail into someone's heart. You might say sorry later. You might pull out the nail, just like you pulled these out. You might fix the friendship, but the scars stay. The hole remains. The person will remember the hurt. The words you shout can leave a mark that lasts forever, even after you have calmed down. Natan stood silent for a long time. He looked at the fence, and he thought about his friends, his sister, and his parents. He thought about the times he had shouted at them. Even though they had forgiven him, he realized now that he had left little holes in their hearts. He felt a deep sense of responsibility. Anger is powerful, Mrs. Jenkins continued. It can cause damage that you cannot see with your eyes. That is why it is so important to control the temper. It is not just about stopping the noise. It is about protecting the people you love from these scars. It is about keeping the fence of your relationships smooth and beautiful. Natan looked at Mrs. Jenkins. His eyes were bright with understanding. I understand now, he said. I must not hurt them, even if I am sorry later. I must stop the hammer before it hits the wood. Exactly, Mrs. Jenkins said. You cannot control the wind, Natan. You cannot control everything that happens to you. People will be mean. Things will go wrong. But you can control your reaction. You can choose to put the hammer down. From that day on, Natan was a changed boy. He was not perfect. Sometimes he still felt angry, because that is human. But now, when he felt the heat rising, he remembered the fence. He remembered the holes. He would take a deep breath, close his eyes, and let the feeling pass without hurting anyone. He became known in the village as a gentle and kind young man. He was strong, but his strength was quiet. He protected others from his anger, and because of this, his relationships grew stronger and happier. He had learned the most valuable lesson of his life, that discipline and self-control are the guardians of love. So what can we learn from Natan's story? The lesson here is simple but very powerful. Anger is a natural feeling, but how we express it is our choice. We often think that saying, "I am sorry," fixes everything. But words are like nails. Once they are out, they leave a scar. We must learn to control our temper, not just to avoid trouble, but to protect the hearts of the people around us. We must build a habit of patience. We must think before we speak. Next time you feel angry, remember the fence. Ask yourself, do I want to leave a hole in this person's heart today? Take a deep breath. Walk away. Choose kindness over anger. It takes practice, just like pulling nails, but you can do it. You are stronger than your anger. I hope this story has touched your heart today. Remember, personal growth is a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself. Keep learning, keep growing, and always try to leave the world a little smoother and kinder than you found it. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story and found it helpful, please share it with a friend who might need to hear this lesson today. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more inspirational stories. Until next time, take care of yourself and be kind to others. Goodbye.